This video is a fictional sci-fi story created for entertainment and storytelling purposes only. All characters, alien species, events, technologies, and scenarios are fictional. This content is not real news, official information, or scientific documentation.
The alien fleet arrived above Antarctica without firing a shot. It did not need to. 17 black vessels slipped through Earth's orbital defenses, disabled every military satellite over the southern hemisphere, and formed a perfect circle around the planet's south pole. Human missiles remained armed but blind. Lunar interceptors lost propulsion. The patrol cruiser Indomitable attempted to approach and found itself transported 6,000 kilometers away without detecting a weapon discharge. Then every communications system on Earth received the same message. You have 19 hours to surrender the object beneath Antarctica. If excavation begins, your species will be held responsible for the deaths of 12 billion Vaelori. Dr. Amina Rao heard the ultimatum inside a drilling habitat 3 kilometers beneath the Antarctic surface. She stood beside a borehole that should have ended in bedrock. Instead, it opened into an impossible sky. Blue-white clouds drifted below the drilling platform. Distant lights moved like cities seen from orbit, although the chamber beneath the ice was no more than 200 meters wide on every geological scan. Amina stared into the opening while frost gathered on her eyelashes. Behind her, Colonel Elias Thorne raised his pulse rifle. "Tell me this is another sensor error." Amina lowered a probe into the borehole. The cable unspooled past the depth of the Antarctic crust, then continued descending. "It isn't an error. How far does it go?" "The probe has crossed 11,000 kilometers." Thorne looked at the chamber surrounding them. "Earth isn't 11,000 kilometers thick from here." "I know." The probe transmitted a final image before the cable snapped. Something enormous moved beneath the clouds. It rose through the false sky with the deliberate grace of a creature surfacing beneath an ocean. At first, Amina saw only a dark curve. Then the object rotated, revealing a structure shaped like an immense ring. Blue symbols burned along its circumference. Smaller craft traveled around it in synchronized patterns. One of those craft turned toward the probe. Its surface opened like an eye. The feed vanished. A vibration passed through the ice. Dust lifted from the drilling platform. Every instrument in the habitat displayed the same countdown transmitted by the alien fleet. 18 hours, 57 minutes. Colonel Thorne's expression hardened. "They know we found it." Amina looked toward the impossible chamber. "No. They came because it found us." 3 days earlier, her team had detected an artificial signal beneath East Antarctica. It repeated every 86 seconds and contained no recognizable language. The pattern had been dismissed as interference until the signal began answering questions. Amina's team transmitted a sequence representing hydrogen. The source responded with helium. They transmitted the first 10 prime numbers. The source returned the next 1,000. Then Amina asked a question no scientific protocol had authorized. She sent a map of the solar system with Earth marked at the center. The answer showed Earth surrounded by a luminous shell. Outside that shell were 43 dead worlds. The discovery remained classified for 72 hours. Now 17 alien warships waited in orbit, and something older than humanity was waking beneath the continent. A priority transmission appeared on Thorne's wrist display. The United Nations Security Directorate had ordered Amina and her team to stop drilling. A Vaelori representative was being sent to Antarctica to negotiate. Until the envoy arrived, no human was to approach the chamber. Thorne read the order twice. "Will stopping the drill satisfy them?" "The drill stopped 6 hours ago," Amina said. "The opening is growing by itself." A low metallic note traveled through the ice. The borehole widened. The steel platform bent as the frozen wall withdrew from it. Blue light spilled across the habitat, revealing thousands of hair-thin filaments woven through the ice. Amina had found those filaments in samples throughout her career. Scientists considered them an unusual mineral contamination. She had spent 11 years proving they were arranged too precisely to be natural. Now they were carrying current. The entire Antarctic ice sheet was part of a machine. Thorne stepped back from the widening opening. What does it do? Amina watched the ring rise through the clouds below them. I think it protects Earth. From the fleet? No. The probe's final data had included a gravitational map. Beyond Neptune, an invisible distortion was moving toward the solar system. It was larger than Jupiter. It would reach Earth in 19 hours. Amina pointed to the alien countdown. They aren't threatening us with destruction. They're warning us that something is coming. The ring below the ice began to turn. Its symbols brightened one after another. In orbit, the Vaelori fleet armed every weapon it possessed. Fleet Marshal Terrace Kell had buried 3 children. The first died when the seawalls failed on Oris. The second died during the evacuation of Mara's southern continent. The third was still alive, but only because Terrace had stopped thinking of hope as a virtue. Hope encouraged hesitation. Hesitation created graves. From the command bridge of the Vaelori flagship Last Measure, she watched Antarctica rotate beneath the fleet. Human cities glittered across the night side of Earth. Billions of lives continued beneath clouds, unaware that their survival had been purchased with the destruction of worlds they had never seen. Adjudicator Keth Arun stood beside her. He was younger than most officers on the bridge, with silver skin untouched by the black ceremonial markings earned through loss. His task was not military. Under Vaelori law, no inhabited world could be sacrificed without a witness empowered to challenge the decision. Terrace had allowed him aboard because the law demanded it. She had no intention of letting him delay her. The humans have stopped drilling, Keth said. The mechanism has already awakened. They may not understand what they activated. Ignorance does not reduce consequences. Keth studied the image of Earth. Does it reduce guilt? Terrace turned toward him. On another day, the question might have angered her. Now she felt only exhaustion. Guilt is a luxury available to those with more than one survivable choice. The bridge displayed the approaching distortion. Vaelori science called it the Naru tide, although it was not a wave, organism, or conventional force. It traveled between stars, collapsing complex biospheres into chemically stable silence. The tide did not consume planets, it simplified them. Forests became uniform fields of carbon. Oceans separated into sterile layers. Living cells lost the irregular structures that allowed them to reproduce. A world struck by the tide remained beautiful from orbit and dead beneath its clouds. The Vaelori had spent 9 centuries fleeing it. 12 settled worlds now lay along its projected path. Earth did not. 34 million years ago, an unknown civilization had constructed a displacement engine beneath Antarctica. The machine surrounded Earth with a probability field, diverting cosmic hazards toward neighboring regions of space. Earth's remarkable history of biological survival was not an accident. Mass extinctions had occurred, but life always recovered. Asteroids missed by impossible margins. Nearby stars erupted in safer directions. Gamma-ray bursts passed above or below the solar plane. Every disaster deflected from Earth had traveled somewhere else. The Vaelori home system lay in that redirected corridor. For millions of years, the Antarctic engine had protected one young biosphere by shifting danger toward empty space. Then the Vaelori expanded into that space. The machine did not adapt. The first Vaelori world died 83 years ago. Terrace had spent 4 decades tracing the deflection field to Earth. She had expected to find an ancient empire using primitive species as camouflage. Instead, she found humanity. Young, divided, inventive, and entirely unaware of the mechanism beneath its feet. That discovery had complicated the mission. It had not altered its necessity. "We remove the Antarctic core," Terrace said. The deflection field collapses. The Nauru tide returns to its natural path and misses our colonies. Keth enlarged the projection. "And strikes Earth. One world for 12. 8 billion humans. 12 billion Vaelori." Keth lowered his gaze. The arithmetic was merciless. That was why Terrace trusted it. Numbers did not ask whose children were easier to mourn. A communications officer announced the departure of the diplomatic shuttle. Vaelori envoy Sarandal would reach Antarctica within 20 minutes. Terrace authorized the descent. "Her purpose is negotiation?" Keth asked. "Her purpose is verification. If the humans can deactivate the field without interference, we will give them time." "How much?" 2 hours. "And if they refuse, we extract the core." Keth studied the human transmissions coming from the planet. Their governments were arguing openly. Some demanded an attack. Others wanted immediate surrender. Civilian researchers had already begun sharing data despite military restrictions. The humans were disorderly, yet their chaos produced information with remarkable speed. Amina Rao's preliminary analysis of the Antarctic mechanism had reached the Vaelori fleet through 6 unauthorized channels. She had identified the superconductive properties of the ice, the geometry of the planetary field, and the connection between the machine and the approaching tide. In 3 hours, she had discovered truths the Vaelori had needed decades to confirm. Keth opened her scientific profile. Amina had lost her younger brother during the Europa vent collapse. She had been the remote mission controller responsible for approving rescue access. When the ice above the trapped researchers became unstable, she delayed entry for 9 minutes while recalculating the risk. Her brother died during the 8th. Afterward, Amina became known for making decisions faster than any researcher in the Earth Planetary Survey. Her colleagues considered her brilliant and difficult. She trusted evidence, procedure, and her own ability to remain calm. She did not trust other people with irreversible choices. Keth wondered what decision the Antarctic machine would require from her. Below them, a blue pulse spread through the southern ice. Every Vaelori vessel detected the same transmission. It was not directed toward the fleet. It was aimed beyond the solar system. Terrace watched the signal disappear into interstellar space. "What did it send?" she asked. The communications officer struggled with the translation. "A declaration of maturity." Keth examined the signal structure. The machine had announced that the protected species was awake. Another message followed. "Custodial authority awaiting transfer." The ancient mechanism was not merely activating. It was asking humanity whether it wished to take control. Sarandal stepped from the alien shuttle wearing no environmental suit. Antarctic wind pulled at her pale ceremonial robes. Ice crystals struck her silver face and melted against a transparent thermal field. She was taller than any member of Amina's team, but nothing about her posture suggested intimidation. She looked like someone attending a funeral she had spent years arranging. Colonel Thorne waited beside Amina on the landing field. Human security drones tracked the shuttle. Vaelori machines tracked the drones in return. Saren noticed both systems and ignored them. "You are Dr. Amina Rao." Amina nodded. "You know who I am. We studied every person connected to the excavation." "That sounds less diplomatic when you say it aloud." "I was not selected for charm." The answer surprised Amina. She had expected cold superiority from the first confirmed alien diplomat on Earth. Instead, Saren sounded tired. They entered the drilling habitat. On the descent platform, Saren examined the blue filaments inside the ice. Her composure weakened for a fraction of a second. "You have touched them?" "We sampled them." "How many?" "Several thousand cores over the last century." Saren closed her eyes. "Your species has been cutting pieces from an active probability engine. We thought they were minerals. You think many dangerous things are minerals. Thorn moved closer. Your fleet has surrounded our planet and threatened to destroy a structure you claim is dangerous. If you want cooperation, begin with honesty. Saren faced him. Your world is alive because 12 of ours are dying. The words carried no anger. Their restraint made them heavier. She activated a projection above the borehole. A chain of planets appeared. Some were ocean worlds. Others held vast cities beneath artificial skies. Each lay in the path of a dark distortion moving between stars. Saren showed them the first impact. On the Vaelori colony of Oris, the Naru tide crossed the atmosphere in 14 minutes. It produced no explosion. Buildings remained intact. Machines continued operating. Every living structure became chemically uniform. A mother holding her infant transformed into two motionless forms of identical gray matter. A forest became a smooth plain. Microbes in the deepest soil vanished. Amina forced herself to keep watching. The Antarctic machine redirects events with destructive probability away from Earth, Saren said. For most of its history, the field displaced those events into uninhabited space. Our colonies now occupy that region. We didn't build it, Thorn said. No, but it has recognized your species as the beneficiary. It is offering you control. What happens if we refuse control? The machine continues operating automatically. And your worlds die, Amina said. Saren looked at the projection of Oris. Yes. Amina approached the blue filaments. If you remove the core, where does the tide go? Along its original trajectory. Toward Earth. Yes. Thorn's hand settled near his weapon. Saren did not move. Amina studied the alien envoy. You came here expecting us to volunteer for extinction? I came to determine whether another solution exists. Does your fleet marshal believe that? Marshal Terrace believes solutions are stories told by people who dislike necessary decisions. And you? Saren's gaze shifted toward the impossible sky beneath the borehole. I believe no civilization should call a decision necessary until the condemned have examined the evidence. The ring below them rotated faster. Its blue symbols rearranged into a path leading from the drilling platform. A bridge of translucent material extended into the chamber. Saren stepped back. For the first time, Amina saw fear in her face. You recognize it, Amina said. Only from our oldest records. What is it? A tribunal path. The Vaelori had encountered ruins belonging to the builders of the Antarctic engine. On 3 dead worlds, they found similar bridges. Each led to a mechanism that evaluated whether a protected species had become capable of custodianship. None of those species had survived long enough to accept. The bridge brightened beneath Amina's feet. A pattern appeared in the air. 3 human figures. 1 Vaelori. A countdown of 16 hours. The machine wants 4 people, Amina said. Saren read the symbols differently. It wants 4 decisions. Colonel Thorn contacted the Surface Command. He requested an engineering specialist and a military pilot. The first arrived 6 minutes later. Dr. Noah Alvarez entered the habitat carrying a case of improvised sensors. He had designed engines for human vessels from Mercury to Saturn and possessed the irritating habit of treating impossible technology as a personal invitation. He looked at the endless chamber beneath the ice. Good, he said. For once, nobody can tell me the warranty is still valid. The second was Commander June Halberg, captain of the Antarctic Orbital Interceptor Wing. She had survived the Vaelori displacement attack on the Indomitable and wanted no part in diplomacy. She stopped when she saw Saren. That fleet killed our defenses. We disabled them, Saren replied. You don't get credit for leaving us alive before threatening our planet. No, Saren said. We do not. June's anger faltered. An enemy who refused easy excuses was harder to hate. Amina stepped onto the bridge. It held her weight without bending. Noah joined her, followed by June. Saren remained at the edge. "If the machine offers you control," she said, "your people may use it against my fleet. If you stay," Amina replied, "you may help your fleet take it. That is why I should not come. That is why you must." Amina had spent years avoiding decisions dependent on trust. The ice beneath Europa still appeared in her dreams. She remembered waiting for certainty while her brother's oxygen disappeared. This time, certainty was unavailable. She extended her hand. Saren looked at it as if the gesture belonged to an extinct language. Then she accepted. The bridge carried all four of them into the sky beneath Antarctica. Behind them, the opening sealed. The bridge ended inside a city built upside down. Structures hung above a blue atmosphere, their towers descending toward clouds. Rivers flowed along curved surfaces without falling. Thousands of dark craft moved between platforms that could not fit beneath Antarctica. Noah stared upward. "Either the chamber contains folded space, or we just left Earth." Amina checked her instruments. They could detect the Antarctic ice sheet less than 4 kilometers away. They also measured a horizon nearly 12,000 kilometers across. Both may be true. June studied the passing craft. They resembled the UFOs humanity had reported for centuries. Silver spheres, black triangles, luminous disks, and narrow cylinders without engines. "Your people built these?" she asked Saren. "No. Have you seen them before?" "Only broken ones." The bridge deposited them inside a circular hall. 4 paths extended toward separate doors. Symbols appeared above the first. The machine communicated through memories rather than language. Amina saw Antarctica before the ice. Forests covered the continent. Rain fell across green valleys. Small mammals moved beneath flowering trees. Above the planet, an object the size of a moon approached through darkness. Then blue vessels descended. Their builders were not visible. Amina sensed only their intentions. They had found thousands of young biospheres threatened by cosmic events, radiation bursts, wandering singularities, unstable stars, and phenomena that human science had never named. The builders could not save every world by force. Instead, they constructed custodial engines that altered probability around developing life. Antarctica became Earth's anchor. The machine nudged asteroids aside, softened solar eruptions, and redirected extinction-level events. It never eliminated risk. A world protected from every hardship would never develop resilience. The engine preserved possibility, not comfort. For 34 million years, it operated without a custodian. Then humanity emerged. The machine observed humans surviving ice ages, disease, impact events, volcanic winters, and one another. It watched them create medicine during war, rescue strangers during disaster, and build tools capable of either protecting life or erasing it. It waited. A species could inherit custodial authority only after becoming capable of leaving its world. Humanity crossed that threshold when its first permanent settlement survived on Mars. The Antarctic signal began soon afterward. The vision ended. Amina found herself on her knees. Noah stood beside her, crying without embarrassment. June stared at her hands. Saren had turned away from them. "What did you see?" Amina asked. "My people's arrival in the deflection corridor." "The machine didn't know your colonies were there?" "It knew." June's anger returned. "Then it knowingly redirected disasters toward them." Saren faced her. "It did not recognize us as protected life. Why?" The answer appeared above the second door. The Vaelori had discovered probability engineering long before reaching the corridor. To shield their ships during interstellar travel, they surrounded themselves with fields that mimicked lifeless space. The disguise protected them from radiation and detection. It also made them invisible to the Antarctic engine. Earth's shield saw the Vaelori colonies as empty worlds. Amina understood the tragedy before Saren spoke. Your own survival technology erased you from its awareness. Saren's voice became thin. We believed the dead worlds were a natural pattern. Noah approached the projected model. If we can change the recognition system, the engine could see your colonies. Saren shook her head. We tried broadcasting biological signatures. The field rejected them. Because you sent data, Amina said, not decisions. The machine had summoned 4 people and called them decisions. It did not define life through DNA, chemistry, or population. Those could be copied. It recognized moral agency. A protected civilization had to acknowledge another. The third door opened. Beyond it waited a dark sphere suspended over a circular platform. One half displayed Earth, the other showed the Vaelori colonies. Between them moved the Naru tide. A choice appeared. Preserve the current field, and Earth survived. Reverse it, and the Vaelori world survived. Deactivate it, and probability divided the tide's impact between both civilizations. Noah calculated the outcome. Partial impact sterilizes Earth and 8 Vaelori colonies. June looked toward Saren. Your tribunal offers 3 kinds of mass death. Saren's expression carried an old grief. That is why Marshall Terrace trusts arithmetic. The universe rarely offers a clean answer. Amina walked around the sphere. The machine had preserved possibility for millions of years. A binary sacrifice contradicted its purpose. There had to be another function. Why summon 4 decisions for a choice one person can make? Noah began scanning the platform. June examined the doors. Saren studied the projected tide. They worked separately for several minutes before Amina recognized her own mistake. She was treating the others as assistants while trying to solve the problem herself. That habit had cost her brother 9 minutes on Europa. She switched off her scanner. Noah, forget the engine. Study the geometry of the chamber. June, assume this is a battlefield. Find what the builder expects an enemy to attack. Saren, tell us why your attempts to communicate with the machine failed. I'll compare the recognition patterns. June raised an eyebrow. You're delegating? I'm experimenting with personal growth. Noah smiled. Terrifying. They separated. The balance shifted almost immediately. June discovered that the dark sphere was not a control core. It was bait. Any force attempting to seize the engine would remove it and disable only the outer shell. Noah found energy paths extending from the chamber toward every human settlement beyond Earth. Mars, Luna, Ceres, Europa, Titan, and hundreds of ships formed part of an unfinished network. Saren revealed that the Vaelori had always approached custodial engines through unified commands. Their civilization valued consensus so deeply that every major decision was harmonized through shared neural councils. The machines rejected that uniformity. Amina compared the patterns and understood why. The engine isn't powered by agreement. The others turned toward her. It preserves possibility. It needs independent choices. Different minds accepting the same responsibility for different reasons. Noah looked at the expanding network. Humanity can provide difference. June gave him a hard look. At last, our greatest strategic weakness becomes useful. Saren did not share their hope. You do not have enough connected colonies. The network requires 12 inhabited anchors. Earth has 7 permanent off-world settlements, Amina said. 8 including your planet. Noah examined the Vaelori systems. How many of your colonies can communicate with us? All 12. Then connect 4. Saren stared at him. You want to combine our civilizations inside the field? We need 12 anchors. You need the engine to recognize your people. The network has never joined separate species. Amina touched the platform. That doesn't mean it cannot. It means no one has tried. A signal interrupted them. Marshall Terrace appeared above the sphere. Her fleet had detected the chamber's activation. She ordered Saren to leave and gave humanity 30 minutes to surrender the core. Saren transmitted their discovery. Terrace listened. Then she rejected it. "The tide reaches our first colony in 15 hours, the Marshal said. "We will not risk 12 billion lives on an untested interpretation." Amina stepped into the transmission. "If you remove the sphere, you won't take control. It's a decoy." Terrace studied her with the focus of a commander evaluating a weapon. "Then show us the true core. We don't know where it is. You ask me to trust a plan you cannot explain. I'm asking you to help us finish it. I once trusted an evacuation model with a 6% failure probability. My son was inside that 6%. Amina heard the wound beneath the words. "My brother died because I waited for the probability to improve. Then you understand me." "Yes, that's why I know fear can disguise itself as caution." Terrace ended the transmission. Outside Antarctica, the Vaelori fleet began its descent. The four returned to the surface with 13 minutes remaining. Earth's military forces had gathered above Antarctica. Human cruisers formed a defensive line beneath the Vaelori fleet, even though everyone understood how quickly those cruisers could be displaced or disabled. The conflict had reached the stage where neither side expected victory. Each hoped to make the other pay enough to reconsider. Amina transmitted the custodial network design to every human government and Vaelori vessel. She expected political leaders to debate until the deadline expired. Instead, Mars volunteered first. The settlement at Utopia Planitia had survived 14 years of radiation storms, crop failures, equipment shortages, and repeated predictions that it would collapse. Its council voted to become an anchor before Earth finished translating the request. Luna followed, then Ceres. Europa's council hesitated. Amina watched its signal from the drilling habitat. The colony occupied the same ice under which her brother had died. Its residents knew her name. Some blamed her for delaying the rescue. Others knew entering the vent sooner might have killed the entire team. Europa approved by a margin of 1 vote. Titan became the 7th human anchor. 4 Vaelori colonies were still required. Saren requested volunteers. No answer came. Marshal Terrace had forbidden participation. "She believes the network will weaken her claim," June said. "She believes failure will consume the time needed to extract the core," Saren replied. Noah connected the first 8 anchors anyway. A ring of blue light expanded beneath Antarctica. The filaments inside the ice brightened from the South Pole to the coast. Across the solar system, human settlements received fragments of one another's sensory data. Amina smelled Martian dust. She heard rain falling inside Titan's methane clouds. She felt Europa's ocean moving beneath kilometers of ice. The network was real. It was also unstable. The Vaelori fleet crossed the defensive line. Human cruisers fired electromagnetic barriers designed to block their descent. The Vaelori responded with precise spatial displacements, moving each cruiser out of formation without damaging its crew. June watched the tactical feed. "They're clearing a path while preserving our ships. Marshal Terrace doesn't want a war," Saren said. "She's doing an excellent impression." The first Vaelori extraction vessel reached the ice. Dark machines unfolded beneath it and projected a gravitational tunnel toward the buried city. The Antarctic craft responded. Thousands rose through the continent. Silver spheres emerged from the snow without leaving openings. Triangles lifted from beneath glaciers. Vast disks climbed through the Ross Sea, carrying waterfalls from their surfaces. Humanity saw its oldest UFO mystery revealed in a single moment. The objects had never been visitors. They were components of the custodial engine. The Antarctic fleet formed a shield over the extraction vessel but did not attack. Terrace ordered her pilots forward. The Vaelori machines fired a narrow distortion beam. The shield bent. Every human anchor screamed through the network. Amina felt the Martian settlement shake. Lunar tunnels fractured. Europa's ocean surged against the ice. The field was transferring the force of the attack across its incomplete connections. "Disconnect them," June said. Noah fought the controls. "If I break the network under load, we may lose the settlements." The distortion intensified. A support dome collapsed on Mars. 3 lunar habitats lost pressure. Amina saw casualty estimates rising. She had urged them to join. They had trusted her interpretation of a machine no human understood. Now their people were paying for her confidence. "Disconnect Earth," she said. Noah stared at her. "Earth is carrying half the load." "Route it through Antarctica. The ice sheet could fracture." "Do it." Noah severed Earth from the network. The force struck the Antarctic lattice. A crack raced across the chamber wall. It continued beyond the habitat, splitting ice that had remained stable for thousands of years. The floor tilted. Colonel Thorne ordered an evacuation. The buried ring began rising, not through the impossible chamber, through the physical continent. Ice erupted 50 kilometers from the South Pole. A circular structure 6 kilometers wide emerged beneath a storm of snow and shattered rock. Blue symbols burned across its surface. The extraction vessel stopped ascending. For one hopeful second, Amina thought the true core had awakened. Then the ring broke. One side collapsed into the ice. 3 vertical towers shattered. The blue field around Earth flickered. The approaching Nauru tide accelerated. Its arrival estimate fell from 14 hours to 6. The 2-year-old Dylan Frice, Noah, looked at the damage spreading through the network. "We didn't activate the engine." Amina could barely hear him over the cracking ice. "What did we do?" "We opened the shield." Above them, a dark line appeared across the daylight sky. It widened from horizon to horizon. The tide had become visible from Earth. Human cities began losing color. Forests in southern Australia turned gray. Ocean plankton died across a widening patch of the Pacific. A research crew in New Zealand transmitted images of moss, insects, and human skin becoming chemically uniform. The partial network had not protected Earth. It had given the tide a path through the shield. Marshall Terrace contacted the habitat. Her expression held no satisfaction. "You have demonstrated that your proposal fails." Amina looked at the ruined ring. 12 billion Vaelori, 8 billion humans. Every decision she made reduced lives to columns of numbers. Terrace continued, "We begin core extraction in 10 minutes. This time, Amina had no argument. The evacuation convoy moved north beneath a sky losing its color. Amina sat alone in the rear transport while medical teams treated the injured. Noah had suffered burns along both arms when the network controls overloaded. June had returned to orbit to coordinate the failing defenses. Saren remained under guard, although she had done nothing except warn them. Amina replayed the activation data. She searched for a faulty calculation, a mistranslated symbol, or an energy imbalance. Every model reached the same conclusion. The network needed 12 inhabited anchors. They had activated only 8. She had known it was incomplete, and proceeded because waiting felt too much like Europa. Her flaw had reversed itself. Once, she delayed until a decision became useless. Now she acted before uncertainty could frighten her. Both choices came from the same arrogance. She believed responsibility meant deciding alone. The transport stopped. Saren entered and sat across from her. "Your guards believe I am here to convince you to surrender the machine. Are you? No. Then why are you here? To give one of your dead a name." Amina looked up. Saren touched a control on her wrist. An image appeared between them. A young Vaelori male stood beside a dark ocean. Silver ceremonial marks crossed his face. Behind him, a city climbed into the clouds. "My eldest son, Karath." He supervised the evacuation of Oris. A second image showed the city becoming gray. He remained until the last civilian vessel launched. His ship had room for one more passenger. He gave the place to a child. I'm sorry. I do not need your sorrow. I need you to understand why Terrace cannot accept your plan. Karath was her son as well. Amina studied Saren. You and the Marshal? We were bonded for 31 years. No public Vaelori record had mentioned that connection. Why are you opposing her? Because grief made us choose different responsibilities. Terrace believes Karath's sacrifice obligates her to save as many Vaelori as possible. I believe it obligates us to become the kind of civilization he thought worth saving. Saren enlarged the final image. The rescued child was aboard the last ship, pressing one hand against a window. Terrace does not count strangers because she lacks compassion. She counts them because names hurt too much. Amina understood. Her brother's name was Rohan. For 11 years, she had described him as one casualty of the Europa vent collapse. She discussed oxygen estimates, structural failure, and rescue probabilities. Numbers allowed her to carry the memory without touching it. What did Karath say before the ship left? Saren's voice softened. He said survival is not the number of people who remain. It is the number of reasons they still deserve to. The transport walls vibrated. Outside, Vaelori extraction beams cut through the Antarctic ice. Amina returned to the network data. The 4 missing anchors were not the only problem. During activation, each human settlement had transmitted the same authorization code. Although their councils made independent decisions, the machine received one standardized signal. Humanity had supplied different voters. Its technology had translated their choices into identical data. The engine could not detect the difference. Saren, how do Vaelori colonies authorize emergency actions? Through the Harmony Network. Every mind reaches a shared decision? Yes. And once consensus is achieved, does the network preserve the dissenting opinions? Saren's hesitation provided the answer. No. Dissent creates instability. The engine preserves possibility. We've both been erasing exactly what it needs. Amina contacted Noah. He appeared through a medical channel, his arms wrapped in regenerative sleeves. She explained the signal failure. He studied the raw activation pattern. We treated the anchors like power generators. They're jurors. And jurors are useless if they're forced to deliver one opinion. We need 12 different reasons for the same choice. Saren understood the cost before Amina said it. The Vaelori Harmony Network would have to be opened. Private thoughts suppressed during consensus would return. Centuries of political unity could fracture. My people consider cognitive isolation a form of illness, Saren said. Humanity considers compulsory thought sharing a nightmare. Your species considers many ordinary things nightmares. And yet you need 4 of your colonies to choose freely. Saren contacted Terrace. The Marshal refused the call. They sent the evidence. She blocked the transmission. Saren looked toward the extraction beams outside. She will remove the core before we persuade her. Then we don't persuade the Marshal. Amina opened a direct channel to the Vaelori colonies. Military encryption stopped the signal. Noah suggested using the Antarctic engine, but the extraction process had disabled its main transmitter. Amina examined the human communication network. Most satellites were blind. Military relays were blocked. Civilian channels had been restricted to prevent panic. One system remained beyond central control: humanity's rescue beacons. Every vessel, habitat, suit, and emergency shelter carried a transmitter designed to reach any nearby receiver, regardless of political authority. No military could disable the network without endangering its own crews. Amina encoded the activation evidence into a distress signal. The message did not ask the Vaelori colonies to trust humanity. It gave them the machine's data, Karath's final transmission, and the projected consequences of every available choice. At the end, Amina added one sentence. No one will decide what your survival means except you. Noah sent the signal. Across the Vaelori fleet, rescue receivers activated. Marshal Terrace ordered them silenced. Her crews hesitated. The signal reached the colonies. For the first time in centuries, billions of Vaelori heard a question before their harmony councils supplied an answer. The first Vaelori colony to respond was Pelos. Its people had 6 hours before the tide reached their outer moon. Their Harmony Council advised immediate extraction of the Antarctic core. The colony rejected the advice. Not unanimously. That was the point. Pelos volunteered as an anchor because its residents had spent 83 years receiving refugees from other worlds. They refused to save themselves by creating another displaced species. The second response came from Ilir. Its population chose participation for a different reason. Ilir's scientists believed the network could become a permanent defense against the tide. They accepted the risk because knowledge gained through failure might protect future civilizations. The third colony, Senvar, voted no. Amina left its decision in the network. Noah initially objected. We need 4 Vaelori anchors. We need independent choices. Removing the refusal turns this into another Harmony Council. The engine accepted Senvar's descent. A dark section of the Antarctic ring illuminated. The fourth colony was Mera, home to Marshal Taris's surviving daughter. Mera divided almost evenly. Half its population supported extraction. The other half chose the network. Under Vaelori tradition, the Harmony Council would continue deliberation until one side yielded. Amina transmitted a human proposal. Do not resolve the disagreement. Preserve it. Mera submitted both decisions. The ring illuminated another section. Saren watched blue light spread across the ice. The engine counts opposition as participation. It doesn't need obedience, Amina said. It needs responsibility. 11 anchors appeared around the ring. Earth, Mars, Luna, Ceres, Europa, Titan, Pelos, Ilir, Senvar. Mera's majority. Mera's dissent. One remained. The network required a decision from someone able to control the outcome directly. Marshal Taris. The extraction had reached the buried sphere. Vaelori machinery pulled the dark object upward through the ice. The Antarctic craft surrounded it, but did not interfere. Taris descended from orbit aboard the extraction vessel. She intended to claim the core herself. June intercepted the vessel with 3 human fighters. Taris can displace us, she told her pilots. Make her spend attention, not ammunition. The fighters separated. One targeted the extraction beam. Another approached the rising sphere. June accelerated toward the Vaelori vessel's command section. Taris moved all 3 fighters 20 kilometers away. They returned. She displaced them again. June changed tactics. Her fighters released clouds of reflective fragments across the combat zone. None carried explosives. Each produced the sensor profile of a crewed craft. The Vaelori targeting system identified thousands of possible human pilots. Taris refused to risk displacing a fighter into debris or unstable ice. Her vessel slowed. Humanity could not overpower Vaelori technology. It could make restraint expensive. June flew through the confusion and landed directly on the extraction vessel's outer hull. She left her cockpit before Taris could move the fighter. Magnetic boots locked her to the alien ship. She carried no bomb and no rifle. Only a physical copy of the network data. A Vaelori security unit emerged. June raised the data module. Take me to your marshal. The unit aimed a weapon at her. If she fires the core before seeing this, your people survive knowing she denied them a choice. The security unit hesitated. Vaelori training had no procedure for an unarmed enemy, demanding to present evidence during combat. June was brought inside. Taris met her near the extraction controls. The marshal's silver face was marked with black lines representing each world she had failed to save. June recognized the same exhaustion she had seen in soldiers who survived too many evacuations. You delayed my operation by 7 minutes, Taris said. That was the best available outcome. You believe your network will work? I believe certainty has killed more people than doubt ever did. Terrace looked toward the Antarctic surface. The dark sphere had risen halfway through the ice. My daughter is on Mara. I know. If I join your experiment and it fails, she dies. If you remove the core, Earth dies. 12 billion against 8. June placed the data module between them. My mother lives in Oslo. Noah has 2 sons on Mars. Amina's parents are in Mumbai. Every number you count belongs to someone who cannot call them a number. Terrace's expression tightened. Compassion does not alter probability. No, it alters what we're willing to attempt. The tide crossed Earth's upper atmosphere. Color drained from the southern clouds. Antarctic microorganisms began dying inside the ice. Blue filaments dimmed as the engine lost contact with the living world it protected. Terrace reached for the extraction control. A private message arrived from Mara. Her daughter appeared. The young Vaelori did not ask to be saved. She did not tell Terrace which choice to make. She spoke about Kareth. She remembered how he made terrible music while repairing household machines. How he disliked deep water despite growing up beside an ocean. How he gave away his seat because the rescued child had never seen another world. Then she said something Terrace had spent years avoiding. Kareth did not die so that every future decision would be made in his name. Terrace closed her eyes. When she opened them, she shut down the extraction beam. The dark sphere fell. Antarctic craft caught it before it struck the ice. The 12th section of the ring illuminated. Terrace joined the network for one reason that belonged only to her. She was tired of making grief sound like mathematics. All 12 anchors connected. The broken ring rose from the Antarctic ice. Its shattered towers rebuilt themselves from blue filaments drawn through the glacier. Thousands of UFOs took positions around its circumference. Silver spheres filled the gaps between larger craft. Black triangles aligned with Earth's magnetic field. The structure pointed toward the Anaru tide. Nothing happened. Noah searched the network. The anchors are active. The ring has power. Why isn't it firing? Amina entered the chamber beneath the drilling habitat again. Saren followed. The impossible city was fading. Towers dissolved into clouds. Rivers of light stopped flowing. The tide was simplifying the machine from the outside inward. They reached the circular hall. The dark sphere floated at its center. This time, Amina recognized what June had already suspected. The sphere was not the core. It was a model of how younger civilizations imagined power. Centralized, portable, and controllable. The true engine had no single center. It existed throughout the Antarctic ice, the UFO fleet, the 12 anchors, and the minds making the decisions. Why isn't it responding? Saren asked. Amina examined the 4 doors. The first had shown the builders preserving Earth. The second revealed the Vaelori tragedy. The third offered sacrificial choices. The fourth had never opened. Amina approached it. A human handprint appeared beside a Vaelori symbol. She and Saren touched them together. The door opened onto emptiness. No machinery waited inside. No control surface. No hidden weapon. Only a view of Earth. The planet hung beneath them, half covered in darkness. Across its surface, billions of lights represented living minds. Beyond it appeared the Vaelori colonies. The engine asked its final question. What are you protecting? Amina expected options. None appeared. It needs a definition, Saren said. Of humanity? Of life worthy of protection. Any fixed definition would exclude someone. Biology would reject artificial minds and unfamiliar species. Intelligence would abandon organisms incapable of thought. Civilization would ignore ecosystems. Innocence would condemn anyone who had caused harm. The builders had left the question unanswered because no ancient species had the right to define every future life form. Amina opened the network to all 12 anchors. The question reached billions. Answers returned immediately. Children, memory, consciousness, home, beauty, knowledge, family, freedom, the weak, the future. Each answer illuminated part of the ring, but none activated it. The tide reached southern Africa. Fields became gray geometry. Animals stopped moving. Human evacuation centers reported patches of skin losing cellular variation. Amina felt panic spreading through the network. The engine was not asking for a list. It wanted a principle capable of surviving contact with beings no one yet understood. Saren spoke first. "We protect those who would protect others." The ring brightened, then dimmed. The answer excluded the frightened, selfish, injured, and young. Amina remembered Rohan beneath Europa's ice. He had joined the expedition to study organisms living near thermal vents. During his final transmission, he did not ask why rescue had been delayed. He described the light produced by the creatures around him. He wanted someone to remember what he saw. Amina understood. "We protect possibility," the ring responded. Not because every life was harmless. Not because every civilization was wise. Not because survival could always be justified by future goodness. Life deserved protection because it could become more than its worst decision. The Vaelori could choose differently from their harmony councils. Terrace could become more than her grief. Amina could learn that responsibility did not require control. Humanity could inherit a shield without becoming its owner. Saren placed her hand beside Amina's. "Possibility," she repeated. The answer traveled through all 12 anchors. Some accepted it out of hope, some out of scientific curiosity, some because they had children, some because they feared death. Senvar rejected the philosophy, but defended its right to exist. The engine accepted every reason. The Antarctic ring activated. It did not fire at the tide. It opened. The opening above Antarctica was wider than the continent. It could not be seen with ordinary vision. Instruments detected it as a region where every possible position of the Nauru tide existed simultaneously. The ancient builders had never created a weapon capable of destroying the phenomenon. They created a way to give it choices. The tide simplified whatever it touched because it followed the most probable state of matter. Living systems survived through variation, mutation, and constant imperfection. The Antarctic engine could divide the tide among countless potential paths until no single version possessed enough force to sterilize a world. But the original system had only one protected planet. It redirected danger instead of dispersing it. The 12-anchor network changed the geometry. Human settlements and Vaelori colonies generated different predictions of the tide's path. Each disagreement created another route. Every route divided the destructive probability. Noah watched the field expand. "It's working." Then Mars disappeared from the network. A Vaelori attack had not severed it. The settlement's primary reactor had failed after the earlier overload. Backup power could maintain life support or the anchor, not both. Mars chose life support. The network dropped to 11. The opening began collapsing. The tide pressed deeper into Earth's atmosphere. June returned to her fighter. "How long until the Martian reactor restarts?" 40 minutes, Noah said. "We have 4. Amina examined the network map. The engine required an inhabited anchor, not a planet or permanent settlement. Hundreds of human ships carried living crews. Can a mobile vessel substitute for Mars? Noah ran the calculation. For several seconds. The anchor load would burn through any ship's field coils. How many ships do we need? For 4 minutes? At least 60. June transmitted the request. No orders were issued. Merchant vessels responded first. An ice hauler near Saturn disconnected from its convoy and entered the network. 2 medical ships followed. Then mining craft, research boats, passenger liners, military patrols, and privately owned vessels volunteered. Vaelori ships joined them. The network transferred the anchor load from one vessel to the next. Each held it for 3 or 4 seconds before its coils burned out. The ships formed a relay across the solar system. No vessel was powerful enough to replace Mars. Together, they kept the 12th anchor alive. The tide divided. One path became 10. 10 became 1,000. 1,000 became millions. Across Earth and the Vaelori worlds, the dark distortion fragmented into ribbons of harmless probability. Gray forests regained color. Cells resumed their irregular chemistry. Oceans stirred. The tide adapted. It concentrated on the weakest link, the minds coordinating the network. Every participant saw a future in which the plan failed. Amina saw Earth sterilized beneath white clouds. Terrace saw her daughter become gray matter. Saren saw the Vaelori civil order collapse into war after the Harmony Network opened. June saw human fleets using custodial technology to conquer weaker worlds. Noah saw the Antarctic engine spread until free choice became impossible. The visions were not illusions. Each was a genuine possibility. The tide offered certainty through fear, disconnect, and the terrible future could not be their fault. One Vaelori colony withdrew, then a human ship. The network wavered. Amina could not order them back. Compulsion would destroy the variation powering the engine. She opened her memories instead. The network showed everyone the last 9 minutes of Rohan's life beneath Europa. Amina's younger brother sat inside a damaged pressure shelter while water rose around him. He knew the rescue team was waiting for her authorization. He knew the ice might collapse if they entered. He did not curse her. He activated his scientific recorder. Outside the shelter, luminous creatures gathered around the thermal vent. Their bodies pulsed blue and gold through the dark water. Rohan used his remaining oxygen to describe them. He wanted knowledge to survive him. Amina had hidden that part of the recording for 11 years. It made his death harder to reduce to a mistake. "I cannot promise this works," she told the network. "I cannot promise that saving one another will make us wiser. I can only tell you that someone once used his final minutes to give strangers something beautiful." Terrace shared Karath's memory. June shared the face of her mother. Saren shared her fear that the Vaelori would lose themselves without enforced consensus. One by one, humans and Vaelori contributed reasons to remain connected. Not speeches, not slogans, specific people. A mechanic on Ceres wanted his daughter to see an ocean. A Vaelori farmer on Pelos wanted to rebuild the garden his refugees had lost. A lunar pilot wanted to apologize to his brother. A Senvar dissenter admitted he still believed extraction was safer, but refused to abandon those attempting another path. The network stabilized. The tide divided beyond measurable limits. Its destructive probability fell below the background uncertainty of the universe. The darkness above Earth thinned. Stars returned. The final mobile ship accepted the anchor load as Mars restored its reactor. Its pilot was Commander June Halberg. Her fighter's field coils failed after 2 seconds. The engine offered to eject her. Ejection would interrupt the anchor before Mars connected. June remained inside. The cockpit filled with blue light. Her final transmission reached the network. "Make the 2 seconds expensive." The fighter vanished inside the opening. Mars connected. The ring completed its rotation. The Naru tide dispersed. No explosion marked its defeat. It simply ceased to possess one destination. Earth remained blue. The Vaelori worlds remained alive. Above Antarctica, the ancient craft lowered their weapons. June's fighter did not return. For 7 days, no one entered the Antarctic chamber. Humanity and the Vaelori watched one another across damaged fleets. Their weapons remained active. Trust did not appear merely because extinction had been postponed. Cooperation began with repairs. Vaelori engineers restored propulsion to human cruisers. Human medical teams treated alien pilots injured during the extraction. On Mars, mechanics rebuilt the anchor reactor using components taken from 6 volunteer ships. Marshal Terrace landed in Antarctica without an escort. She met Amina beside the broken drilling habitat. The dark line in the sky was gone. Sunlight moved across the ice. In the distance, UFOs descended silently into the continent. Terrace carried June Halberg's flight recorder. We found it near the outer edge of the opening. Did you find her? No. Amina accepted the recorder. Terrace looked toward the place where the giant ring had returned beneath the ice. My daughter lives. So do my parents. I do not know how to balance those facts against the people we nearly killed. Maybe we stop balancing them. Terrace considered that. Vaelori law requires an accounting. Then account for the choices, not only the casualties. The marshal removed one of the black markings from her face. The line represented Oris, the first world lost to the tide. Among the Vaelori, removing a mourning mark meant the dead had been released from obligation. Their memory could no longer be used to justify the living. Terrace pressed the mark onto June's recorder. Your pilot purchased 2 seconds. She hated waste. Then we should spend them well. Together, they entered the chamber. Amina, Terrace, Saren, Noah, and adjudicator Keth followed the bridge into the inverted city. Its towers had become transparent. The ancient craft were returning to their stations. The 4th door remained open. Inside, the view of Earth had expanded. 12 inhabited anchors surrounded it. Beyond them appeared thousands of distant stars. Some contained custodial engines that had failed. Others contained protected species not yet mature enough to answer. The Antarctic mechanism had not been built as an isolated shield. It was one part of a network the builders never completed. Earth's engine had waited 34 million years for a species capable of connecting protection across difference. The Vaelori had possessed the technology, but suppressed disagreement. Humanity possessed disagreement in abundance, but lacked the necessary knowledge. Neither civilization could have activated the network alone. Noah studied the star map. How many worlds are threatened by another tide? Keth translated the machine's response. 317. Terrace's expression hardened from instinct. Then she stopped herself. How long do they have? Some have centuries. One has 11 years. Amina looked at the custodial craft. Humanity had spent generations imagining UFOs as invaders, observers, or proof that another civilization had mastered the stars. The truth carried a heavier responsibility. The craft were unfinished invitations. The Antarctic engine had protected humanity until humanity became capable of protecting someone else. A final symbol appeared, custodial authority awaiting transfer. This time, no single person approached it. Amina connected the symbol to Earth, the human settlements, and every Vaelori colony. The authority divided among them. No leader could control the shield. No fleet could remove it. Any protected world could challenge a decision. Every activation required multiple independent reasons. Dissent would remain visible instead of being erased. The system accepted. Across Antarctica, the blue filaments changed direction. For millions of years, they had carried danger away from Earth. Now, they carried a promise outward. Keth recorded the transfer for the Vaelori archive. He had come to Earth prepared to witness the sacrifice of one civilization for another. Instead, he watched 2 frightened species refuse the arithmetic placed before them. Humans had not prevailed by revealing a hidden weapon. They had not outsmarted a foolish enemy or defeated the Vaelori in battle. They prevailed because they treated an impossible choice as an unfinished problem. They failed. They caused damage. They frightened one another, argued, disobeyed, and nearly opened their own shield to destruction. Then they adapted. They invited their enemies into the solution. Amina activated June's recovered flight recorder. Most of its data was corrupted. The final 2 seconds contained no image, only the sound of the pilot breathing as the anchor load consumed her fighter. At the very end, another sound appeared. 3 quiet knocks. Noah analyzed the waveform. The knocks had not come from inside June's cockpit. They came from beyond the opening. The custodial engine displayed a new star on the map. It was not one of the threatened worlds. It lay in a region of space considered empty. A human identification code appeared beside it. June's code. Amina touched the symbol. The machine provided no explanation, only a probability, not proof of survival, possibility. Amina smiled through tears. For once, possibility was enough. 20 years after the Antarctic crisis, adjudicator Keth Arun returned to Earth. He arrived aboard a vessel designed jointly by human and Vaelori engineers. Its hull carried no unified insignia. Every crew member had been permitted to choose a symbol representing why they served. The result was visually terrible. Keth had grown fond of it. Earth's custodial network now protected 43 inhabited worlds. Some joined quickly, others refused for years. One species accepted protection while denying that humanity existed. The engine preserved that opinion with all the others. Antarctica remained cold, remote, and protected by treaty. Research stations expanded around the buried ring, but no nation claimed the continent. Children learned that the blue filaments beneath the ice were neither human property nor alien property. They were a responsibility held in trust. Amina Rao directed the Custodial Institute from a modest station near the original borehole. Age had silvered her hair. She still made decisions quickly, but no longer confused speed with strength. On the anniversary of June Halberg's disappearance, Amina and Keth stood beneath the southern lights. Silver spheres moved high above them. Tourists still called the objects UFOs, although their purpose was no longer identified. The old name survived because language often carried wonder longer than accuracy. Keth asked Amina whether humanity regretted opening the shield. "Every day," she said. He looked at her. "That is not the answer I expected. We know what's outside now. We know how many worlds need help. We know every rescue creates consequences. Then why continue?" Amina watched a maintenance craft descend through the ice. "Because regret means we still understand the cost." A signal arrived from the custodial network. It came from the empty region where June's identification code had appeared 20 years earlier. For 2 decades, the signal had repeated 3 knocks at irregular intervals. Scientists developed hundreds of explanations. Some believed June had survived inside a probability corridor. Others believed the engine was replaying her final neural pattern. A few thought another civilization had found the recorder. This transmission was different. It contained coordinates. A custodial expedition was already being prepared. The mission would be dangerous. The destination lay beyond mapped space. No model offered better than a 17% probability of return. Thousands volunteered. Humans did not volunteer because they believed themselves indestructible. They understood destruction very well. They volunteered because uncertainty could contain more than danger. It could contain someone waiting to be found. Keth returned to his ship and opened the historical record he had begun during the crisis. For years he struggled to summarize what Antarctica meant. It was not a fortress. A fortress existed to keep others out. It was not a weapon. A weapon reduced the future to victory and defeat. It was not even a shield, although every civilization continued calling it one. Keth finally entered the last passage. Antarctica did not hide a secret from humanity. It protected humanity until humanity could endure the truth that survival was never meant to belong to one world. The ice guarded Earth through its infancy. When the darkness arrived, humans did not prove they deserved life by winning. They proved it by refusing to purchase their future with someone else's children. The shield had waited 34 million years for that answer. Then it opened.